This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Today on Believe in People, I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Caitlin Morrison, and today's guest needs no real introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. Hank Azaria, actor, comedian, musician, and the voice behind some of the most iconic characters on The Simpsons. From comedy to creativity and resilience to real life, this one goes deep. Let's get into it.
Yeah, sure. Happy to be here. Love Caitlin. Known her for a long time.
We just talked about that.
Not like it's not like we were best friends, but I've known her since she was a child.
I know. I was a weird little tag along. I was like, oh,
yeah. No, you were delightful. You're a funny child.
Did you feel like you have to, when you have an older sibling and a younger and a little sister, do you feel like you have to kind of like not say the things you want to say? You have to like be cautious, or did you find that?
I mean, my sisters are much older than I am. They're 10 and 12 years older than I am. So I don't have much experience. I have nieces and nephews. I have a son, and certainly have to watch what I say around him, especially because he's 16 years old now. So put him, although I really shouldn't, because anything I say is just horrifyingly embarrassing. So,
yeah, 16 for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
For sure. And actually, Hank, I want to ask you, what's something like totally ordinary about your life right now, or period, that would surprise people?
Something totally ordinary about my life that would, we kind of referred to it before we were recording, but I work out a lot. I actually do. It's kind of, it got even more in the pandemic. Like going for like a 5 mile run turned into like, 10, 12 mile run. And I picked up tennis again and kind of felt like that time there wasn't much. I noticed then that people either kind of went down or went up in some way. Very few of us stayed sort of plateaued. And one of the things I did besides leaning into my recovery and connecting with people over recovery was I was like, well, let me double down on working out. So I work out more than the average person probably, but it's very everyday to me.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? So my twin brother, I have a twin brother, and we are workout crazy people. And seriously, we do it for our mental well-being. Well, he's injured now. Okay. And I've been reading like, okay, what happens when you work out and you don't have that for your mental well-being? And they say that's probably like the hardest thing to attach yourself, because if you get injured, now what? So what do you do if you can't, like, what do you do when you can't work out? Like, let's say you get injured or something, like you're sore.
I mean, I have been injured. It's funny, we were talking about the bike before we were recording too. That is when I will turn to not a Peloton type bike, but a stationary bike.
Yeah.
Because usually that's a workaround for a lot of injuries, not all of them. But like when I hurt my ankle, I could still do the stationary bike. Um, but I just kind of, I really do go nuts without it. My old shrink, Phil Stutz, who talked
Phil
like
Stutz.
this.
No
Yeah, Stutz
way.
was my shrink. Yeah,
No
for like,
way. He's
yeah, for like
amazing.
20 years. Yeah, Phil Stutz, sure. And
Wow.
Is that jealousy face?
I've just been reading so much about him.
yeah, I had the great good fortune when I was about 25, 26 years old is when I first went into his office and stayed in there for about 20 years, on and off, but mostly on. And one of the things Phil said was pretty much the only thing for grieving and sadness is aerobic exercise. It's like you can't be sad at the end of a run, at least for 20 minutes. It's not possible. He used to call me Schmuck. That was his pet name for me. Listen, Schmuck, go for a run. Stop whining.
That's true, right? So you can
Yeah.
even hear it in his books, the way he writes, the same kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, he's truly a character. He's not quite of this earth, and he's amazing. And he got me through quite a lot. He really did. I also started running. I quit smoking when I was 30, and I found that I couldn't just stop cigarettes. I needed to actively do. So I started running, and I got addicted to that. I could like measure my lungs coming back to health that way. But I do just, I work a harder program when I'm injured because I need something else, but I definitely rely on physical activity to calm myself down.
Yeah.
I say I can't afford the shrink that you went to. But now I'm glad that you told me you did your little thing, your little sticky thing, because now I can just picture it. So it's like I save a lot of money. I can imagine that I'm getting that therapy.
I think after 20 years in there, I won't charge you anything, Caitlin. I think I could probably just substitute for Stutz, including the
Sounds like
voice.
him, man.
Yeah.
It does sound like him. Hey, let's talk about your recovery. Like, can you, I don't, what was the journey for you? And how did you say, okay, that look at, I am like, I can't, I got to do something.
It was complicated. I began in Al-Anon
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
about 30 years ago. Uh, and I was first more aware of people close to me around me with drug and alcohol problems. And it was driving me pretty insane, trying to fix them, help them, save their lives, nag, scold, complain, all the Al-Anon don'ts that you find out I did. And then 7 years into that, it's funnily enough, into that kind of recovery, a lot of that recovery for me was about, well, what do I like to do if I'm not following around people with their crazy addictions and problems? What are my things? And I rediscovered a lot of things that I was hiding from in myself, but also a lot of just things I plain old like to do, like mundane things like I'm a Met fan. I hadn't seen a game in years. I love documentary films. I hadn't watched one in ages. I love poker. I hadn't played in ages, like things like that. And one of the things I really liked to do, I remembered, was drink. When I was in relationships with in codependent relationships, I didn't drink or use pretty much because I kind of had my drug. And then when I was single, I would start hitting it really hard. And then I finally caught on to myself about 7 years into that codependency recovery. And I realized it actually did start out healthy because I was kind of living for myself more than other people. But then it turned into its own problem. And I spent that year that a lot of alcoholics spend bargaining. Okay, I'll only drink wine. Okay, I'll only drink on weekends. Okay, I can drink, but I can't get drunk. I have 2 drinks, but that's it. And I finally cornered myself like, all right, the next time I'm really blasted, that's it. That's the end. And sure enough, I was in Vegas one weekend with our friend Richard Kind, Caitlin. I was with Richard Kind. And not that it was his fault at all. He just was a bystander. And I was so wasted. And it was funny. I really went out kind of happy. I was like, enjoy the weekend, buddy, because Monday morning it's AA for you. And that Monday morning, Caitlin's brother Matthew and his sponsor Earl took me to my first AA meeting.
Wow.
And that was it
You
for me.
you stuck, like that was it. You stuck to it?
I needed no further evidence. What Matthew's sponsor Earl said to me that night as we were sort of doing a post game on whatever I was doing, I remember Earl, the way Earl phrased it. He went, I don't know if you be or you not be, meaning an alcoholic. He said, I do know that the disease tends to go only one way. Fun, fun with problems, just problems.
Wow.
And he said, you sound like you're in fun with problems. And it sounds like the recovered Al-Anon in you has early diagnosed the budding alcoholic in you. And I think that was accurate because I had seen a lot. And I was like, well, do I want to wait a year till I have DUIs and I get fired and I make a public disgrace of myself and God knows what else? Or do I want to just stop right now? And I did.
And is that when you replaced it with like things like exercise? Like what did you replace? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, I was actually quite fit. I remember because I remember that night Earl said to me, you don't seem like a drunk. Like you're all fit and you seem fine. I'm like, yeah, I exercise probably too much too. And actually what happened to me was that first year of sobriety. I mean, I was high bottomed, but I found it very hard not to drink, very difficult. And one day at a time, sometimes an hour at a time. And I cross addicted into food. I gained about 20 pounds in about 8 months, I think. And I started playing Mario Kart very obsessively. And my anger and rage would come out playing Mario Kart. Like I would be online with Japanese teenagers and I would scream apoplectic curses at them. Like I owe amends to every Japanese teenager who was playing Mario Kart 20 years ago.
Wow. What were you like as a kid?
I was troubled as I was looking back now, I can see that I was, a young drunk addict then. I just obviously didn't know it. I was very emotional. I was very smart and very athletic and very funny, and I got good grades. And so I passed muster according to my family, who weren't paying particularly close attention. Uh, but I was also very emotionally volatile. I was a bully as a kid, very angry and hair trigger temper, very sore loser at sports. I was that kind of kid where, I'd make a good play at third and whip the ball to first. And if the kid dropped it at first, I was the kid that went, "You suck," to that kid. Um, kids were afraid of me until I
Were
got
you
my
bullied though, Hank? Were you bullied as
Oh,
a kid?
well, I was a bully until I got my ass kicked when I was about 12, 13 years old and kind of really got what it was like to be on the other end of that. I was like, oh, that's kind of terrible. And then though, I was a sarcastic, funny, smart alecky little, I was a pain in the ass teenager. And I took it out on people I perceived as weaker than me, which was almost everyone. And uh, not until I was about 15 and I started using. I kind of mellowed out with the pot and the alcohol. I was much more fun to be around. It kind of took the edge off my anger, and that remained so until I kind of picked up that anger right where it left off when I got sober at age like 41, 42. Uh, And I also got anorexic and
Yeah.
bulimic when I was at the same time, right, 15, 14, 15, 16. So I had horrible problems, as Matthew used to like to say.
And with these addictions, like, did you have obviously, I mean, you have addictive personality. I mean, so there you kind of trade one for the other. Do you
Yeah.
feel that, right? Like, so you're as a kid, then, because you're kind of like sort of masking, with comedy and whip smart and stuff. But did you want to land into this career? Like, like, what did that just kind of come out, happen, or do you really dig it, or what is that?
Well, by the time I'm 15, 16, I started, I did a school play, and the guy who directed it was a professional actor named John Phillips, who made it. He's a great actor. He pulled me aside one day and said, you could do this. I was like, what? Stay after school? What? Do what? And he's like, no, you could be an actor, a professional. I was like, really? And I kind of took it seriously. And I did a summer at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts when I was 16. And um, yeah, it was a dream, but I didn't really think I would ever make it. But by the time I was in college, I was in theater almost all the time, even though I wasn't I did major in drama, but I also majored in psychology. By the time I graduated college, I figured I liked it enough and thought I was good enough at it that I knew I would regret it if I didn't try it. But I fully expected to be back at grad school for psychology by the time I was 28. I kind of give myself till then. And but also acting, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a good addiction. It saved me. Falling into these productions and working at the craft of acting, having a place like Gestalt therapy to go absolutely bananas on stage, either dramatically or comedically. Sometimes I think the only difference between me and other members of my family who are less recovered is they didn't have that outlet. They didn't have a place to put all that insane energy.
Do your characters help you? Like, when you're like down or like in a shitty place, is there a character that makes you feel better?
No, I should maybe try that more. Um, no, but I do sort of a crazy version of self-sponsoring. Meaning, I mean, I have a sponsor and stuff, but I know I need to vent. And I will often, I'm very verbal. Like I like to talk things out as opposed to writing them. So I will sort of monologue what's upsetting me, and I'll often send it to people, but sometimes I'll just listen back myself and then kind of talk myself down. Go,
That's a
okay,
great
I
idea.
see why you're upset about all that. But yeah, it's a good thing you said it into the recording and not to anybody else. Let's just see how we might want to respond and not react to all this.
Actually, that's a fantastic tool.
But I don't do it like in voices. It's not like Mo the bartender, gets angry about stuff and,
Hey, where did the voices come, by the way? Like, how did that all happen?
ever since I was a child, I could just mimic. I just could do it like a parrot, like a literally, like it's like a minor bird or whatever. I just could do it. Caitlin's brother, his nickname for me was the freakish mimic, and he was not inaccurate. And uh, it just was like a toy to play with, you know. It was fun, and I had a lot of, I lived a lot of my fantasy life, and I had heroes, Bruce Springsteen, and Al Pacino, young Al Pacino. Like these guys were heroes of mine, and I found I could talk like them. And so, fun fact is like young Al Pacino on one end and Bruce Springsteen on the other end. Right in the middle there is Mo the bartender. So I would sort of mash these voices up to create characters later on.
And now, okay, so speaking of Bruce Springsteen, how did you get into the music thing? And why that? And do you like act as if you're him, or is it you singing his songs? Like, you know what I mean?
It's complicated. It's complicated. Turning 60, which I did a year and a half ago, as the kids say, I felt a certain way about that. And I was not Mr. Oh, I'm bummed about my age guy ever. But then I noticed, when you turn 40, everyone goes, oh, it's the new 30. You turn 50, everybody says, oh, 50 is the new 40. And then I was really noticing that nobody was saying 60 was the new anything.
It's true.
I was just fucking 60.
Yeah.
And I actually was sad about it. I was having mortal thoughts, and this has been a program issue for me for a long time. I feel like, the awareness of your own death either makes you kind of live one day at a time joyously, like, hey, all I got's today, I should carpe diem, or you get kind of morose, like, what's the fucking point? I'm just gonna die and I'm half dead already, and this is awful. And I was a little more in that state of mind. Uh, and I wanted to ignore the birthday, but that felt sad.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, what kind of party am I gonna? I'm gonna have a party. Then I had this absolutely insane idea. Like, well, what if I invite like literally everyone I ever knew and create reunions, like a college reunion and a high school reunion and a camp
Yeah.
reunion and a Broadway reunion and an LA reunion. And it ended up being 550 people. And
Wow.
then most of these people are Springsteen fans. So and I was getting nostalgia, part of that morbid feeling was nostalgia takes on becomes this aching, yearning, burning pain, especially associated when you hear songs from your youth. And for me, that was mostly Springsteen.
Wow.
And so I was listening to it so much and imitating it to myself so much that I was like, I'm going to tell my friends that I have a Springsteen cover band coming to my party, but not tell them that I was working for months to learn to mimic him to front it. And that's what I did. And it ended up being it still is the hardest I've ever worked on anything vocally ever in my life. I'm still refining it. And I actually learned to sing properly via it because I'd always rejected that. Because to me, I wasn't learning to sing, I was learning to imitate Bruce, which I
Oh
really
yeah.
wanted to do. And then I unlocked the impression. Like I've had that happen a few times where I couldn't get the voice at first. And then eventually I got it. And I got so thrilled by that I got kind of obsessed. And I still am. Here, I'll put in our chat a copy of our Prove It All Night. And I gotta say, The standard I work from is if I were playing Bruce in a movie, would it be good enough? Because that's the
Oh,
level I'm used to. That's the level I try
yeah.
to perform at. And I feel like I attained that within the last few months, actually.
Is it
Oh
fun? Like you having fun?
my God. No, it's
Like,
beyond fun.
no
It's joy.
way.
It's joy. I worked my program the last few years around joy. Like I literally worked the steps around. I'd like to have more joy in my life, and it not just be this, you know, duty I'm performing, sort of content, but not loving it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this grew out of that. I think because the release of joy of singing and doing this, all the money goes to charity, all goes to my foundation, all the net proceeds.
Let's talk about your foundation.
It's called the 4 through 9 Foundation after steps 4 through 9. Um, because step 4 to me is seeing my part in things. And so step 4 is what's my part, and step 9 is how do I make amends if my part did any harm, right? So I wanted to give back for a variety of reasons. And so certainly sobriety and health and wellness, education, I've been a long time supporting, and human rights, social justice. And so the foundation gives to all those different organizations from there.
That's amazing. And so clearly you're a resilient guy. I mean, did you ever like when you were hit like your super, we all do, but our deep, dark times in our life, how powerful were the connections that you had? Like, I mean, we talked about Matthew and your first meeting, but how did what was that? What did that feel like for you?
Um, yeah, we say, well, one of the things we say in recovery, any recovery room, and I've been in all of them, Al-Anon, AA, SLA, OA, I qualify for every program. Um,
Hmm.
the opposite of sobriety is not, opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Um, and I kind of see myself, I'll never not be an addict, but I consider myself a connection junkie now. Like even talking to you like this right now, certainly people in the rooms, my sponsor, my sponsees, anyone. And I was amazed. Well, I told this story in an op-ed I wrote about Matthew. At that first AA meeting I walked into in Brentwood, California, big meeting, 200 people. I was there with Matthew, and he was in a good sober period at the time. And he saw the look on my face, which was not good. I was really, they use the word demoralization a lot in AA language, and I was experiencing it for sure. And I was like, how am I going to stop drinking? That's just horrible. How is being in this room going to help me stop drinking? That seemed insane to me. Even though I'd been through Al-Anon, I knew it worked. And and um and I just don't wanna. That's how I just kept. I was like, I don't want to start a new program. I really just don't. I just don't. Um, and Matthew knew me really well and saw the look on my face, and as if I thought that out loud to him. And he said, "It's something, isn't it?" He said, "God's a bunch of drunks in a room together." Um, and I had no idea what he meant. I was like, "Yeah, okay, I guess, whatever." Um, And then it didn't take me long to realize, oh, it's actually hearing them share about how they feel the same way. And certainly how I feel this way. And then how they got out of it. And then people with much worse problems, worse addictions, worse life situations than mine were calm and happy and connected and sane. And I was like, how did they do that? Um, and that's what Matthew meant. And that has to be built every day. I never get cured. I get a daily reprieve, right? But every day I have to find some new way to connect and share and um, counteract.
And and Hank, is that over? Like, is the addiction or the need to have alcohol, is that out of your mind? It
Yeah,
is?
yeah, that doesn't ever enter my mind. My home program is really adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. That's the program I've been really focusing on the last 8, 9 years. I sometimes still go to AA meetings, but I don't ever, it doesn't even occur to me to have a drink. But all that was underneath, all the stuff that triggered me to drink remains unless I address it. And that all goes back to childhood. And so I like in that program, I'm able to blamelessly look at what my parents did and didn't do, how I survived it. And one of my survival strategies that worked, by the way, because I'm talking to you now, I lived, was drinking. I don't know that I would have survived without drinking and using through my teen years, especially.
And is it because, okay, so you have like you have older sisters? How were they to you? Like, what was it like? And were
They
your
were
parents
very
stuff?
loving and sweet to me.
Yeah.
They really raised me more than my parents did. My sisters and I got into difficulty when we got older. We didn't see eye to eye, and we don't see eye to eye a lot over how we were raised. Like we almost have, I was like, what house were you in? And so we so disconnect
That's
over
true. Hank, that's a
that.
thing, man. That's a thing. Do you know that all of us, like we all have older siblings, and actually you are living different lives. Your experiences are completely different. Because you think about it, what are they? How old, much older are they than
10
you?
and 12 years.
Yeah, same with our
Thank you.
siblings. And it was a whole different. The economics may have been different. The way in which they lived would have been different. So you're both right, like with that.
Yeah, one of my sisters tends to glorify my folks, and the other one tends to vilify them,
Mm.
and I'm like, I kind of feel like in the middle
Yeah,
is the truth of it.
yeah.
But so that's not, but yeah, so our relationships got more complicated the older we got, but thank God for them. When I was growing up, they really were lovely to me. But they left by the time I was 8 is the problem.
Yeah.
I was sort of an only child in the house after that. My one-man show is a lot about this. I just finished writing it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you
Do
on the
you
road?
want to do it right now?
The one-man show.
Yeah,
I could pull it up and just start.
you just do it. Just do the whole thing.
Yeah, do a
It's an
little bit.
exclusive.
It's still a working. We're reading it at my
That's what I'm saying to you.
agency next week, and so I hope to put it up this year.
Oh, that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
I was just really thinking about this because, it's, when you talk about addiction and recovery, and, so you're always recovering. So you're not really recovered, right? It just evolves. So do you kind of think like, with your brother, with Matthew, it's like, and you're doing the Matthew Perry House, which is unbelievable. How do you feel about Hank's conversation and recovery? And do you, do you,
I well, aside from I love to just hear the conversation. I also love that you're asking all the questions because otherwise this interview would be called Katie Goes Off on Tangents based on things that Hank says. And I
That would be good too. I'd
that's
like to
cool,
hear that. Yeah.
right?
go for
Like
it.
I need and it's an aside. You don't have to answer it. But I need to know how you talk to people and don't mimic them to their face. And
Oh, that's good.
I don't understand how that's possible.
Well, it's
Okay,
funny
so
for
can I
some.
just say, before you said that, I was not self-conscious, but now I am. Oh my God, right? This
No,
friggin'
it's funny. I used to do that much more, like especially when I was young and still like had no outlets for mimicry. I would do it all the time. And now it's like my day job. So it's like I don't really feel like doing it. But I'm also shy to do that. Like, uh, it's funny, like I don't want to talk too much about your brother, but I loved your brother and I got to study him up close. And he also was a fascinating comedic being that I was fortunate enough to observe close up. And Matthew was one of those people that not only was he hilarious, part of his comedic gift was he could kind of say anything and get away with it. And I knew that because sometimes I would try to say the things he said, and people would get really pissed at me. But somehow they would just laugh when Matthew said it, right? And which is a real gift. And I think I was thinking about this just today, actually. I don't know why. Maybe because I was thinking about him because I knew I was going to talk to you. And I think it's because Matthew, he really did love people so much that that really came through. Like it always was the undercurrent of even him teasing you was
Mm.
that he loved, you felt his love. And I think that you felt that in his comedy. Whereas I was much crankier. So when I would say stuff, people kind of felt my edge sometimes. They'd be like, hey, buddy, back off. I'm like, how come Matthew can say it? Um, but and so see the mimicry stuff, I tend to mimic people I either idolize or really annoy me, you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
I can tell I'm starting to get impatient with someone if I start to imitate them. Um, because it's sort of an out, that is a kind of therapy I do to myself. I like repeat what they said or did, not to them. So if I'm angry enough to them, like when I used to get in fights as a kid or as a teenager, I would start mimicking the person I was squaring off against to sort of mock them. So it is kind of some of it's fueled by anger, but I try not to do it at people because it's embarrassing for them and for me.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I hear you.
Speaking of going off on tangents, by the way, that has happened to me. That like that. If you want to know my experience trying to be funny, I would steal from Matthew all the time. That was my, he's the funny guy. Why am I going to make up my own stuff? And inevitably, every single time, no matter how hard I tried to, like do the thing the same exact way. So that's really inappropriate, Katie. Like just really, you can't say that stuff. That's insulting. I don't know who you think you are.
Where'd you get that from?
Hey, but Matthew got a
That's
big
my life.
laugh with it.
That's
I
my
know.
life is trying to be funny and it's not, it turns out it's not funny when it comes into my face. But you were asking Amy earlier about like what is the stuff that Hank's saying, what does it mean when I think about like the work that we're doing and the Matthew Perry House thing. And for me, what I love is it shows why this is important for people. Like why the community thing, why having access to being able to be in a community of people who want to support you through this thing. The incredible stuff that's on the other side. The like finding a life where you want to focus on joy and you want to do the amazing thing. And you live the kind of life where, you're turning 60, you're bummed, you want to do like a reunion thing, and over 500 people show up, as opposed to somebody who hasn't been through that, who hasn't had to find like that better life, that better way of living. They turn 60, they want to have that party, that like reunion thing. And it's like table for four, please. Let's hope they all show up, you know?
Yeah, if I had kept drinking, I don't know if I'd be dead. Or it's a coin flip as to whether I'd be incapacitated in one way or another. But I definitely wouldn't have the connections I have with people. The what I thought was my biggest shame was my greatest strength. My story, which because standing there in that room with Matthew at that first meeting, I'm like, I'm not going to tell these people all the horrible shit I did. I can barely tell myself these things, you know. And then they start telling their things. I'm like, really? Everybody's saying what they did? Um, and then here was the thing that I didn't get. I think part of that joy component and connected thing that was outside of my understanding at that time, Kaylin, was my bad story and sharing it with others and admitting it to, as we say, God, ourselves, and another human being. It gave me real compassion for other people that I didn't have before. I wasn't like, totally numb, although I was pretty numb. But my ability to admit my own horror stuff and face the shame of it made me able to have a lot of compassion for other people. And then I was in a position to help others. Another thing we say, I think it's more of an Al-Anon thing. We go from hurting to healing to helping.
Huh.
Um, and So I couldn't do that. And a lot of those connections you just mentioned grew out of that, you know.
If people are kind of on the fence or there's really struggling, and this relates to what the work that Caitlin's doing, the work that you're doing, how do you, because people may not even know that they have a problem. They're just trying to mask all the brutal elements of our life right now. Like, I think it's even more prevalent that we're trying to seek substances in some way. How do you guide them? Like, what's one thing or a couple things you can say to just kind of get them to think differently or to help themselves in a better way? Because there's a lot of anger out there, and more substance abuse.
Yeah, well, I don't know where to start because look, everybody who walks into any one of these rooms that we've been mentioning, on the one hand, it's very, very bad news if you're walking in there. You know, to say to somebody, I'm sorry you're here would not be inappropriate because people don't usually walk into these rooms unless they're, I mean, I was a relatively high bottom drunk. My life was a mess, I promise you. And certainly inside, I was miserable. So, but on the other hand, I'm happy for them when they walk in because here's this shot at what we're talking about of, you can stop and and I, I guess I would say this. If you're curious, if you're even curious, if you're even wondering if maybe you have a problem, whether it's substances or somebody else is using or a relationship or if anything is just really bothering you, um, and you're not telling folks about it because you're sure that it would be very shameful and it wouldn't help, right? There's rooms you can go in, and you don't have to say anything. You can walk into an Al-Anon room or an AA room or an ACA room and just listen. It's just think of it as an interesting live podcast you can attend for free, and just walk in there and listen and see if anything resonates with you. No one will bug you. You don't even have to say what your name is. You can pass if it comes around. Um, and no one will rat you out. No one will say, "Oh my God, I saw Howard in there." No one will report to your boss or anyone else. And just give a listen and see if anything resonates with you.
That's cool. That's actually really good advice. Hey, and Hank, why do you believe in you?
Huh. Well, I've tried everything else, and finally, I was left with I only got me. So, and this is a lot of the recovery things. So, and a lot of that was embracing things I didn't like. Another thing we say is accepting doesn't mean liking necessarily.
Yeah.
But I just kind of got like, well, this is who I am. And that's what I got to work with. And I can work with it. And I now have a many years of evidence that working with that stuff will work. Not always in my timing or the way I want, but it always works if I just kind of, Stutz used to say, I would whine about all manner of things. And he'd say, listen, schmuck, the main thing is we got to get you to stop abandoning yourself. And that's the kind of phrase that stuck with me. Like, I'd kind of rather not be with myself through this, but I'm going to stay with it,
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad the two of you connected. Yay!
Yeah, me too.
That's
Glad to
awesome.
see you, Caitlin.
Yeah. Good to see you too. Good
Yeah.
to see you too.
And we'll see you soon.